Sometimes it's hell getting to heaven. And that was just getting through this event because, oh boy, what a goddamn roller coaster it was. Up and down, all around. Come on, defense, work. There were some great moments, and man, when it came to the Rumble, again, there were some great moments. And then it became the Legacy show, the Orton show, and then the question at the end of the show, oh my goodness, what is the future of Randy Orton? Will he be fired on the following Raw because of what he did to Vince McMahon when he punted him in the skull? Well, we all know what happened at WrestleMania 25. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels main evented. Oh no, they should have. But of course, Randy Orton and Triple H main evented. And, well, let's just say it was certainly a match that existed. Certainly a match that closed the show. But before that, let's talk about this event. I'm John Renton with the Retro Review WWE Royal Rumble 2009 at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Pretty much a sellout. Nearly 17,000 fans. They got to witness some pretty damn good moments, including the return of Rob Van Dam. Oh, God, if only RVD and Ron Simmons had teamed up a little bit more often. So, 2009 was a bit of a weird year for WWE. They were in their first full year of being PG, but this is also when Orton was just a vicious killer and taking people out, and this is when they were really heating him up. I mean, really, really heating him up. And it was weird because he would end up suffering an injury. I believe, well, no, he would suffer an injury like sometime in 2008. He would come back, he would do some great stuff as far as being, the shaved head and everything and being punting people in the head. He would even RKO Stephanie. He would do a whole bunch of vicious stuff. That actually happened at the Raw in Spokane, Washington. Right after was it right after No Way Out 2009? Because No Way Out 2009 was in Seattle. Yeah, Spokane. From Seattle to Spokane, that's roughly about a 5-hour drive. In the winter. Over the mountains. Nevertheless, we got to talk about this event. Dark match, by the way. Jimmy Wang Yang, because he's your boy. Yeehaw! Such a weird gimmick. Took on Paul Burchill. Speaking of weird gimmicks, this is when he was not the pirate Paul Burchill. He was going to be teamed with Katie Lee Burchill. It was going to be a brother-sister incest thing. Look, that was stupid. They should have just had them be, have her be his manager. I mean, who could not fall for her? Take a look at her. Take a look at her now. And if you don't think so, apologize for being wrong. Let It Rock was the opening for the pay-per-view video package, highlighting the card. Cole and Lawler called Raw. JR and Taz called SmackDown. Todd Grisham and Matt Striker called ECW. Whatever happened to Todd Grisham? I think he was calling stuff on ESPN for a while. Matt Striker, I didn't really miss Matt Striker. Him and Vampiro were a decent team for a couple seasons on Lucha Underground, and then that whole thing went to shit. Jack Swagger, speaking of things that went to shit, let's just blame Jack Swagger or Jake Hager or whatever the hell his goddamn name was in Lucha Underground for killing off Lucha Underground. Because the charisma vacuum known as Jack Swagger was the ECW champion defending against the former champion Matt Hardy in an ECW championship match. The crowd loved Matt. They wouldn't love him about 90 minutes later, or actually, now that I think about it, it's almost an hour later. Swagger never improved. Like, taking a look back at him here, and taking a look at the fact that he loves his hat, even though I'm currently not wearing a hat, he was fine as far as athleticism. He was really good, but charisma vacuum wasn't interesting to watch. Couldn't really do anything except go around like this. You try to fire up and do crazy stuff. Never worked as a face. He was easy to dislike as a heel because he's a fucking douche. Matt did everything that he could. This is also when Matt could work at this point, and we got a Dr. Bomb 1, 2, 3. Not a bad match, just not a match that should have opened a pay-per-view. Then we see Orton arriving, and this was right after he had punted Vince McMahon, so everybody was giving him the cold shoulder, treating him like he was cold as ice, willing to sacrifice his job. And then Beth Phoenix took on Melina with Santino in her corner. Beth, that is, not Melina with Santino. That would have been weird. WWE Women's Championship match. This is when Beth and Santino were Glamorella. They didn't give him a lot of time, but they packed a whole lot of stuff in here. So Beth, being the defending champion, she was just wearing down Melina. Melina kept fighting back, doing some good stuff. Because Melina at this point could still work. I mean, I don't know necessarily about now, because time catches up to everybody. But her and Beth put a good match together. There was this one point where Beth had her Melina's leg bent. She had her on her stomach and was bending her leg and snapping and stomping the back of her head with her own foot. I should call her sometime. Wait, that was one of my exes. But what ended up happening is the crowd got into it a little bit later. It was like 6 minutes, and a roll up 1, 2, 3. Melina wins the championship. I believe it would drop it back to Beth sometime later. The women's championship picture got a little bit muddy at this point. And there you go, new champion. Okay, will we get a new champion in the next match? Well, first we gotta see JBL talking to Shawn Michaels, telling him, do the right thing and it's over. You will be free to do what you want any old time, as the Lord and Saviors, the Soup Dragons, once said. That being said, this whole thing of Shawn Michaels being financially tied to JBL because JBL loaned him a whole bunch of money. Now he's an indentured servant. This is stupid. There's nothing wrong with having Shawn have a redemption storyline, but this whole thing was really dumb. And then Taker shows up and says, sometimes it's hell getting to heaven. JBL with Shawn Michaels in his corner taking on John Cena. Ba 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 ba. Whoop-a-doo. He was the defending World Heavyweight Champion. It was a World Heavyweight Championship match. They usually had pretty good matches. In fact, I would argue that a couple of the matches they had in 2008 were far better than this. JBL was nearly done. Would Shawn end up causing friction? Would he end up costing Cena the championship just to get his freedom? Well, until the finish, this really was a kind of a standard match. We got a ref bump, and then Shawn came in, and, who's he gonna super kick? Who's he gonna super kick? Hit Sweet Chin Music on JBL. Huge pop, and Cena's like, oh, right, and then he gets hit with Sweet Chin Music. He puts JBL on Cena, goes to leave. The referee counts 1, 2, kick out, because it took about 14 years for that finish, or that near fall to occur. And then AA out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3, John Cena retains, and then we would have Shawn versus JBL at No Way Out for Shawn to gain his freedom. I was not at the No Way Out 2009 pay-per-view, by the way, in Seattle. Partly due to finances and partly also due to the fact that I was usually having to buy the tickets for these events at the time, and I really didn't feel like it. In hindsight, would it have been cool to go? Sure, but you know what? Watching the Elimination Chamber matches live might not have been easy, because that's one thing. Elimination Chamber matches, steel cage matches are a little bit hard on the eyes, especially with the way WWE does them. So then we get the whole thing with Jeff Hardy and Edge. Was Edge causing all these things to happen to Jeff Hardy? Him having, accidents, the pyros, setting him on fire, all this stuff since he became WWE Champion. What's going on? Was he causing all this stuff back at Survivor Series 2008? Was Edge causing it? No, Edge wasn't causing it. Or maybe he was, and maybe they just decided to suddenly throw us a curveball. Swerve, bro, even though he was in TNA at this point. Once again, fuck Vince Russo. So we get Jeff Hardy against Edge, with Chavo Guerrero in his corner. No DQ match for the WWE Championship. Vicky Guerrero came out and introduced Edge. I remember at one point Vicky Guerrero was in a wheelchair. God, if only that was actually the case. I know that's mean, but you know what? She's a raging goddamn bitch that believes in the wall, so as far as I'm concerned, she deserves every bad thing that happens to her. Granted, this was years before, but nevertheless, Vicky Guerrero by this point really, really, really should have not been part of the company. This was bad. This was getting bad. Jeff blamed Edge for all this stuff that was going on. I will say this. They took it seriously and they brought out the weapons, but they brought it out in spots. They would bring out the chairs, they'd bring out the ladder, but they did it in spots where they told at least enough of a story. It wasn't quite as good as the story they told with the ladder match at Extreme Rules 2009, but they did some good stuff as far as psychology, using the weapons, telling story through Impact. Not unlike when Jeff ended up going to Impact about a year after this. So, we did get this one scary bump where Edge was on the announcer's table. Chavo interfered. Edge got off the announcer's table. Jeff was pissed off at Chavo, posted Edge, beat up Chavo, put him on the announcer's table, got up on the top of the ladder, and jumped off. But the problem is the ladder slipped about 5 seconds too soon, and Jeff hit a splash, and I think he hit his head on the goddamn announcer's table, because that looked pretty goddamn brutal. And then Vicky interferes, and then Matt comes in with a chair, and he's like, and he's got this and everything, and he's got a chair. Here, Jeff, wait, let's do a concerto. Oh, okay. And then Matt has this. He has this and waffles Jeff in the head with a goddamn chair. And then Edge looks weird, looks at Matt weird, like, what? What? 1, 2, 3. This would lead to Matt then taking credit for burning his trailer down with the dog in it. Yeah, I felt bad for Jeff there. I felt bad for the dog. That sucks. Matt versus Jeff was not a good storyline in WWE. It wasn't really even a good storyline in Impact, but at least they went all bonkers there so they could go cinematic to hide the fact it couldn't really work. But that being said, so far, standard card, few ups and downs. The whole Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy thing didn't really work because Matt Hardy was, back to being a face like 5 months later? It was, it was pointless. Jericho then was talking to Randy Orton about how, well, you may have punted Vince, but that was jovial Vince. That wasn't the actual killer Vince McMahon. That wasn't the vicious Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon died a while ago, and I'm telling you this because you're going to get fired tomorrow. So there you go. We get a Rumble number rundown, and then we get the Royal Rumble match. And I got to be honest, had some good moments, but this is one of the lesser remembered Rumble matches for a few reasons. There were numerous people that got 25 to 30, if not more. There were a few people that got over 40 minutes in this Rumble. And there were a few good stories here. Legacy, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. getting together, dominating the thing, using a numbers game. That was fine. The problem is it started to occur halfway through the Rumble. And it just felt like they went too long with it. And I understand what they were trying to do, but there were a few points where they hit a valley and couldn't really get out of it anytime soon. Rey Mysterio and John Morrison starting out at 1 and 2. Rey lasted nearly 50 goddamn minutes. Carlito, taking a stab at the number 3 spot, just like his dad did in the showers with Bruiser Brody in 1988. That's mean. Carlito, it wasn't his fault. Bruiser Brody got murdered because Carlos Colon was a piece of shit that employed Jose Gonzalez. Moving on from that, something about this Rumble felt off is what I noted. Now, I do also want to say before I dive into the rest of this, the only other retro reviews that I could do on Rumbles, because I've done so many from, in the last few years, from like 2019 to 2020, 2021 and 2022, hard to believe we're in the year of our Lord and Savior, Kazuchika Okada 2023. But that being said, the only other ones I have left are 2010 and 2013, which I may get to those, but then what am I going to do? Retro Review 2016? Because everything else is already on the goddamn channel. Sorry, and apologies, by the way, if I sound a little bit off. Winter allergies are a goddamn bitch. So anyway, Great Khali came in at number 5. He got eliminated by Vladimir Kozlov. Very quickly. Khali couldn't move at this point, and this was 2009. I still love it, the 2008, show in Madison Square Garden. The crowd's instantly chanting, "You can't wrestle," because he couldn't. He never could. I mean, yes, he was a little bit better in New Japan, but also there were people bumping their asses off for him in New Japan. Triple H in at number 7, lasted 50 minutes. Orton came in at number 8, and spoiler, sorry, Orton won the goddamn thing, lasting about 48 minutes. JTG lasted 12 minutes or whatever, having to really swim upstream here to get to last that long, because to be perfectly honest, at this point, JTG was essentially being used just as a guy to just get bumped around. They did a coin flip thing, and he had a double-sided coin to make sure the Shad didn't have to worry about getting there in shark-infested waters. Shad, for whatever reason, they turned Shad heel in 2010. I will never understand it. I will never understand why they turned Shad heel. Teddy DiBiase Jr. at number 10, 45 minutes. Legacy was a good idea, but ultimately, they had Manu in it, and that didn't really work. Jericho was at number 11. He lasted 37 minutes. Mike Knox got in right after that, lasting 32 minutes. What did wrestling fans do in 2009 to have to warrant enduring Mike Knox in any wrestling ring for 32 minutes? Nothing against Mike Knox, but I can't imagine there was a clamoring to say, yeah, let's put Mike Knox in a wrestling ring for that long. Let's put Mike Knox in a wrestling ring in general. Enough dumping on Mike Knox, even though I could for a while. Because he was fine, he was a big guy, and unfortunately that's all he had. RKO Symphony to a pop, and then a pedigree stops that immediately. Finley in at number 14 for 30 minutes. He was in or near 50 at this point. Cody at number 15, he also lasted 37 minutes. And then he had a face-off with Goldust. It became a legacy show at this point. Undertaker in at number 16 immediately eliminates JTG, Mr. Blue Lives Matter himself, eliminating the African American. Big shock, but at least there's only evidence of that, and not evidence of him doing anything to gay people like Kanye. Oh. Undertaker, one of the best careers of all time, but look at what Undertaker did to a whole bunch of people he didn't agree with. So yeah, I don't really feel bad that he has a whole bunch of injuries and everything. His goddamn fault. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? So, Goldust faced off with Cody briefly, very briefly. I think he was in for like a minute. CM Punk came out at number 18, lasted about 22 minutes. Kane at number 23, because we had a few people in at this point, but none of them really made an impact. And speaking of people that would later make an impact, Rob Van Dam. Okay, let me try again. Rob Van Dam. And number 25, he hadn't been with the company for nearly 2 years at this point. Got a big pop because, Detroit, Michigan. He was from Battle Creek, Michigan, which I assume is close to Detroit. I don't really know my Michigan geography. I know, shocking. He really did get a lot of big chance, and he had a decent showing here. I mean, he wasn't going to do anything insane. This was like one appearance that he had. I think he had another appearance against Santino a little bit later in the year, if I remember right. And then that was about it. He would go to Impact in 2010. Brian Kendrick came in, eliminated Kofi Kingston, shockingly, but was gone within 15 seconds. Dolph Ziggler got eliminated in about 20 seconds, and Santino runs down, gets clotheslined over the top rope immediately by Kane. I wasn't ready. And then we have Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the first ever Rumble winner, even though it was 20 people and not 30. So we should count it, and we do. But technically, it was 20 men and not 30 men. So he won the first ever Rumble match. That's unfair to Jim Duggan, who beat cancer again. Congratulations to Jim Duggan. And Big Show's in at number 30. And then we have people getting eliminated left and right. We have Legacy against Undertaker, Triple H, and Big Show. Undertaker and Big Show go over the top rope, stand on the apron for about 5 years. Big Show gets RKO'd, and then he gets eliminated. And then Undertaker's about to chokeslam both Legacy members from the outside of the ring, and then gets pulled down. So that feud's going to continue, even though it shouldn't have. Should have never been a feud in the first place. And then Triple H is 3-on-1 against Legacy. Eventually, nails Orton, throws him over the top, but Orton lands on the apron and sells for a bit. Ted DiBiase Jr. gets eliminated, Cody gets eliminated, and then Triple H gets tossed out by Orton. Orton wins and then points at the sign about 15 times before the pyro people are like, oh shit, we need to wake up. Sorry, Kevin Dunn's Bucky Beavertooth motherfucking chattering is basically stopping us and everything. It's stopping us from understanding what the hell's going on. We can't hear the cues because this piece of shit's still here. And then all the pyro and stuff like that. And there you go. Randy Orton wins and then would be kept in WWE because Triple H would insist on it. He would break into his home because Triple H was a babyface at that point. And then they would build and build and build. And then they would do a thing where Triple H could lose the championship via DQ. And then they knew her the whole goddamn match. So yeah, this Rumble certainly was something. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.